You know, Scott, there's a quote from Confucius. He says, by 3 methods we learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. Just like I'm imitating him.
Right now. Oh, yeah.
And third, by experience, which is bitterest. It is bitter.
It's bitter. Yeah.
But I think as we approach the end of the year, we want to talk about reflection, don't we?
Yep. End of the year reflection.
We are what we think. At least this is what I think. I want to hear what you think about this.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're thinking. You become what you think. So if you aren't what really happened, your year isn't what really happened to you. Your year is what you think happened to you.
Yeah, you're getting into the theory of memory there.
We like going deep.
The way that we tell the story of our life actually becomes our life.
Yeah.
Now, you can tell that story in so many different ways, but the way you tell it shapes it. So I do an all-day kind of life session with some of my clients. Actually, we did it together.
I know. You did mine. It was great.
I did yours. And one of the big things that I'm looking for when someone I ask them to tell their story. What was it like in this stage of life, in that stage? And I'm listening for how they tell the story. Because how they tell it illuminates to me what lens they're looking at it through. And when you tell that story, it then becomes your memory. And that is what it was for you.
Yeah, so your memory isn't this thing out there, this pristine piece. Your retelling of it actually rewrites the memory.
Bingo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think it matters to use some kind of a structured way to get reflective. We're going to talk about appreciative inquiry.
Appreciative inquiry.
Or inquiry.
Yeah.
We got to decide how do we say that right now? Inquiry.
Appreciative inquiry.
Inquiry. Yeah.
Say it with a monocle.
Yeah.
A cigar.
Appreciative inquiry.
Yes, we're going to talk about appreciative inquiry, but before we get there.
Yes. Well, I think the reason why we want to talk about that and connect that to the end of the year is that it really matters what you think about your year.
Yes.
And it's easy to think the wrong things. And it sounds funny, but we lie to ourselves a lot. Nobody wants to put on rose-colored glasses. We talk about those rose-colored glasses all the time. But the truth is we usually don't look at life through that. We look at life through dark pieces of our lives.
Yeah.
But some forms of depression can be us picking up a dark piece of glass and looking at all of life through that one little dark piece.
Right. Yeah.
We don't want to do that with our year. And I think one of the things that holds people back from reflection is that you're afraid of what you might find.
Yeah.
You're afraid that it's just going to be about your regrets. My year was interesting.
Right.
Like I'm owed about 10 grand from different people.
Oh, really? Okay.
That changes your finances for the year because people haven't paid.
Yeah.
People owe me for projects, and it's more than I usually have in a year. And I could feel bad about that, and I could look at all of my year. I could make that my year.
Fear of having to look at something dark will often cause us to be repressing that thing, but unfortunately, then it has more power than it should.
Yeah.
Right. We don't.
It's the whole repression. You repress, and it gains power.
Bingo. So I don't want to think about how I got taken advantage of, but that just eats away at your unconscious. Right. So it's well worth looking what you regret straight in the eye and being honest about that. Although that's not where we're going with.
I regret this conversation already.
So you learn by reflecting. Like that's the way that adults learn. Like children learn by rote. They memorize and whatnot. But adults, especially when you start taking like graduate level courses, you're not able to get very far if you don't stop periodically and work it through your experience.
I'll have to think about this.
We have to talk about it. We have to, unless we do that. Adult learning comes through reflection.
Sometimes we want to just dive into action and keep running. And we like to talk about learning through experience, but I hear you saying you don't just learn through experience. You learn by stopping and reflecting.
You have to reflect. Or else, here's the kicker. You keep making the same mistakes. That
sounds bad.
Like, and if you're not doing any kind of annual kind of evaluation of your life, it's a very good chance. You might have had a marriage fall apart. The reason why, if you go back 7 years ago with the previous marriage, is almost identical because you didn't learn from the first one.
That lack of reflection is keeping you in a perpetual pain cycle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because we don't have a lot of opportunities. It's hard to get ourselves to reflect, at least for me. Even though I love reflection, it's hard to stop and do it when I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to move, I'm trying to get things done.
Right.
The end of the year is like a free pass. Hey, buddy, stop, chill, and reflect because it's the end of the year. Any leader can give herself a free pass to take some time.
Right. It is an arbitrary date. It really doesn't matter when you do it, just as long as you do it at some point.
Yeah.
If you do not reflect on what you've been doing, then time seems to blend together. Memories don't stick unless you actually codify them. It's really easy to look back over your life if you're not in the practice of reflection and just feel like the years are screaming by. And I'm not really doing anything with my life. You just keep forgetting what you've been doing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So this is a way of making it feel like life is actually being lived.
And that probably enhances the need to use a structured way to reflect, because if you are going to codify, if this is going to be some codified experience of mine, I could freely go down this dark path.
Yes.
And then I'm sticking darkness in my memory.
Well, see, there's some of the problems. So we gotta hit those head on.
Yeah.
You are setting your life trajectory. So if you only look at life through a oppressor-oppressed lens, you will be oppressed.
I'll stop you there. I feel like you're coming down on me. Okay, so just to bring this into what to do about this.
Sure.
Tell me about appreciative inquiry.
Okay, so this is our recommendation.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a structure that you can use to perform reflection in a way that is healthy, and in a way that helps wrap up your year in a healthy manner.
Right. So appreciative inquiry it's a form of research that is done with a group of people generally, and it's oftentimes done when they're about to do some strategic planning. It's really helpful. As a matter of fact, I do it quite often when I'm sitting down with a board, and we do this before we start anything else. And it's geared to have you tell the story of what things you appreciate about your organization, or in this case here, what your year was like. What did you appreciate most about the year? And that's the starting point. Now, of course, throughout the inquiry, you can then start to look at some of the negative things, some things you need to learn. But the starting point is, what do I appreciate? And why that's valuable is, first of all, it's emotionally compelling. Because when you first start, if the very first question you ask is, what sucked about my year? You're probably going to quit within 30 seconds. But start with, what did I really appreciate? And your unconscious likes to hunt for that, and you'll want to answer that question. You just start listing 2 or 3 things, and hey, it wasn't that bad of a year. But the other thing that it really does is it helps to very quickly illuminate our values. Like, they just come screaming out. Like,
So instead of asking what are my values, you just use appreciation.
Yeah, what did you really appreciate? And you just have to peel one layer, and you see, well, that's what they valued.
Okay, so let's get to it. We're going to talk about a few things that we can do. Maybe 4 or 5 simple, 3 or 4 simple questions we can ask that we can answer as a little tool, just to give us structure to our reflection, to keep us from going off the tracks, to keep us from picking up a piece of glass and looking at everything.
The wrong color glass.
The wrong color. Yeah. So the first one I want you to tell me about is it's this question: what are 5 things that happened this year that I'm so thankful for?
And again, that helps you to codify your year. I had 5 great things happen to me this year. Or I did 5 things. I accomplished 5 things. But it helps to make that year meaningful. Yeah.
So and our second question is, what diversity or obstacles did I overcome this year? And I think that's a big deal, because I like to think back at the obstacles, but when I think about the things that I overcame, it gives me a bit more energy to go after the next ones. Because there's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be diversity. It's positive, yet it's looking at the hard times and the hard times I got through. And I think it's important because it gets me a bit out of the victim role that I can get into when I want to blame others. I want to blame opportunities that didn't land. I want to blame people that owe me money.
Yeah.
And instead, it gets me into my overcoming. And that's what I have control over.
The more I work with clients, the more I see when victim mentality shows up, they're in the drama triangle, and it's a trap. And so when you ask just the simple question, what did I overcome this year? You are automatically pulling yourself out of the drama triangle and telling yourself the story that I am a champion.
And you're responsible.
Yeah.
You're responsible. You have influence. You're looking at the power you do have. You're like our buddy Nelson, who even in the midst of having horrible things happen to him, started a chain reaction by taking responsibility that led to his leadership becoming happening on a national level.
Yeah.
So the next question is, what was deeply meaningful to me or to us this year? If you want to do it with a partner or somebody, what was deeply meaningful to me this year?
Yeah. See, I love this question because it takes that deeper dive from what made me happy this year. Happiness is more of an emotion that comes and goes, but meaning is one of those things that has a lot more matter to it, more substance to it. And again, that helps. If you can answer that question, it also helps you to continue to do that kind of stuff.
Because that connects with this next question, which was, therefore, what are the habits, processes, growth that happened to me this year that I want to continue next year? So if there's habits I don't want to lose, what do I not want to lose this year? And that flows right out of those meaningful things. So if it was really meaningful to me to be learning as much as I was, how do I keep that learning going? If it was meaningful to me to struggle and to win a championship, how do I keep that kind of struggle going so that I end up with those kinds of experiences?
Right. That question is asking, like, what habits do I not want to lose? Some of the ones that may not bring you a lot of meaning, like, say, exercising. It might, but it might not. But it certainly, you'd look back and say, I do not want to lose that because, everything hangs on my health.
Or it's like the only time you spend alone. That's me. And lastly,
last question.
It's not really a question, but it's just a direction to share it.
Okay. Oh, to actually tell people what.
Yeah. So I just did this list. Why should I share it with somebody? I think for me, it has to do with this thing of, it's part of the codification of it.
Yeah.
When
it helps to codify it. When
I can say, hey, this year, like, especially if you have close friends, or if you have a life partner of any sort, like if me and my wife, if we sit down and we could talk a bit about this, she can learn these things, but she can learn what's valuable to me. I can learn what's valuable to her. If she talks about something being meaningful and I didn't realize how meaningful that was.
Yeah. That's good.
When you made dinner one time, that was meaningful to me over the course of the year.
And it reinforces that you're going to do it
again. Yeah,
absolutely. You're bang on right. It also really helps with the codification, codifying. It helps lock it into your long-term memory when you speak it out loud. Now, this is especially the case for extroverts.
What? Sorry, I'm cutting you off about the extrovert thing. The codify. I just realized not everybody would use that word as much as me and you have in our educational career.
Yeah. To codify something is to take and something that happened or an idea or some event and to give it extra significance and to make it a thing in your memory, in your mind, in your space. Yeah.
Okay. That's I think people like that. So let's to wrap up.
Okay.
To wrap up, we are always remaking our world, and what the reality of the year isn't what's in our heads, and the way we think is actually redesigning our past.
The way we think about our past,
yes,
redesigns
our past.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need to reflect in a healthy way, because that redesign could become really negative.
Yes.
And appreciative inquiry is one of the tools that we could pull out to use to set ourselves in the right direction for reflection. And we're going to approach it with thankfulness, looking at obstacles we've overcome, looking at what's meaningful to us, and looking at what habits and growth we don't want to lose. And then to make sure we share that to help codify it strongly in our lives. I think we should put something like this up on our site, so people can look at the questions, even just a simple sheet.
Sure.
Thank you.
You bet.
I'll remember this.
That was good. That was good.
Please be recording.